So Zelda 2 is not a very hard game, but the final dungeon sure is hard. Until you know what to do, then it's easy. And a lot of these strategies that I've come up with are my own strategies because... So basically, once you have... Getting up here, you gotta continue. It's very difficult to get up to this part, but once you get here, you gotta continue, so... When you die here infinitely, so you always have 3 lives. So you get through that barrier, otherwise it would just kill you, which is horrible, because all the way you have to come to get here, but... This game is only hard if you don't have a guide. If you have a guide, it's not too bad, in my opinion. And when I was a kid, obviously I didn't have a guide. There was like Nintendo Power and Game Shark, and that's pretty much it. There was no internet, and yeah, when I was a kid, I don't think I ever got past the second dungeon. And even playing it like a decade ago, I don't think I ever got past it, because I had this game when it came out. And yeah, there's a very clear path that you go, and if you follow this path, then the last dungeon is not too bad. There's only one enemy type that really gives any trouble. And the final boss is a joke. It's so fucking easy once you know what to do. So, people who say this game is hard, I gotta say, you haven't played a lot of hard games. I consider Castlevania for NES to be a much harder game. Like, a lot of NES games and SNES games. Contra 3: The Alien Wars, that's a harder game. That's for the SNES, but these are just recent. Bucky O'Hare, that's a harder game. The thing about this game is it's not hard, it's just punishing and I mean, obviously it's cryptic because it's a Zelda game, but it's cryptic in a way that, you actually can figure some things out, but if you have a guide, then it's really easy in the general, because the bosses are all very easy. It's the obstacles. And the thing is, if you know to use specific abilities, it gets like 10 times easier. If you know to use the jump at X place, if you know to jump over certain enemies, like here, for example, I'm gonna just use jump to get past all this shit, because I mean, he's gonna fight this stuff. But yeah, if you go the wrong way, of course, then you're kind of screwed. But fortunately, it's pretty hard to go the wrong way. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to cast Life. I'm going to cast Jump, and there's a secret here. Oh, no. Sometimes it's a potion, sometimes it's a bird. This I got from a guide, obviously, but the guide I used was on ZeldaDungeon.net, and it had a lot of errors. I had to find my own way multiple times, so I can tell not a lot of people have beaten this game because they didn't even bother to fix the errors. But it's a hard fucking game, and it's not that great. It's good. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, but it has its problems. And I like it, but I don't like the NES Zelda at all. I didn't even own it when I was a kid. It's just not my kind of game. I mean, it is. It's just it's so dated that it's just not very fun. For me, this game is dated, obviously, but I think, yeah, you keep going to the right. Notice I'm jumping over these guys. And this whole part, it looks a lot like Zelda 2. I mean, not Zelda 2. I'm playing Zelda 2. It looks like Mario 2. Because that game was mostly desert areas like this, but the style, too, is very, very Mario 2 style, with the bird masks and all that. Very strange that 2 different games on the Nintendo that came out at the same time have the same art style. Even though this does not look like a final dungeon to me, but it is. So this is the hardest part of this dungeon, is getting past this guy. If only because... Well, only because he's fucking hard. If you don't do this like I'm doing, then you're gonna be screwed. If you try to fight him, he's like impossible to kill, because he's almost invincible. Most of your attacks will miss. So I just run away. That's the thing about this game, is it's not hard if you realize you can run away from about 90% of the enemies. Which seems like don't you want to fight him? But that's kind of not how a lot of older games were, where, you know, in newer games, if you see an enemy, you always kill the enemy. You just clear every room. But in older games, they were much more challenging, because you had to make more quick reflex decisions. This game's a lot like that, so... See, this guy, too, is the same thing. And duck under there to avoid that guy, but... Yeah, you have to expect to take some hits from this guy, and just keep running, because if you fight him... If you crouch, you're screwed. If you jump, you're pretty much screwed. Now there's two there's a magic bottle and a fairy. But I don't know if I'm gonna, yeah, I can. It doesn't always give it up though. Yeah, that's the problem. And I can't get it now because I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna lose my. I'm gonna get the fairy instead, which is over here, I think. You gotta be really careful here, because... Another thing about this game is, if you can master that downward thrust attack, then it gets like 10 times more fun and 10 times easier, because the downward thrust it has infinite damage. It doesn't slow down, but it doesn't damage everything, so you have to just guess. Okay, here's the trick. You have to go left here. You've been going right the whole time, but here you gotta go left. I always forget that. If you go right, you get it to a dead end with one of those blue guys that are horrible. But you get 3 lives to do this, and so yeah, it's not that difficult. It only took me about 3 tries. A lot of games they can take 20 or upwards of 20 tries, so this is just not that hard of a game in my opinion. You need to fall through this false floor, which is incredibly confusing, but whatever. And you just go right the rest of the way. I think this is it actually, but I'm gonna have to make. Oh no, there's one more thing. I'm gonna have to make him like kill himself unless I get a magic bottle, because you can't fight. It's physically impossible to beat this boss otherwise. That's alright, I have 3 lives. And despite the fact that people think Dark Link is hard, no. There's actually like a lot of... You can jump and slash his legs, but if you just stand in the corner and slash, it's just as easy. And people think that's a trick. That's not a trick. If you play it, that's the only way to do it. Is to stand in the corner and slash, because he moves too fast anyway, so you would never be able to do it. And if you couldn't figure that out, then you just suck at video games, to be perfectly honest. And sucking at video games probably means you suck at a lot of things that require hand-eye coordination, so... Okay, so what you gotta do here is you gotta take out the Thunder spell and use it, and then he loses his face. Now shield and jump. You don't need to use either of those, but you do have to use Thunder because you can't hit him otherwise. This is really the final boss, because the next guy is just a waste of time. And basically all you do is you just jump and slash his head, and if you can avoid those... The balls that he's throwing out have the same sort of trajectory that the... There's some lizard guys, I think they're lizards, jumping over a wall earlier in the game, and they have the same trajectory, so if you can do that, you can do this. It requires a little bit of luck, but it's not too bad, to be honest. I might have to do it again, but... It's more about timing. Nope. Okay. And that's it, pretty much. Now you fight Dark Link, and you get a key, even though the key is worthless, because you already have an item. Yeah, it's the key all the way on the right. That's the master key in this game, I guess. And it opens all doors. And there's no lock, so why do you get that key? I have no fucking clue. It's probably because they just programmed all the bosses to drop a key, and it was easier to fix it, so... That's 90s gameplay programming for you. Now, that guy's supposed to be a wizard, but he doesn't look like a wizard. I don't know what he is. He looks like the hero, or like the king of Hyrule or something, but he's actually makes Link fight his own shadow. And this is so stupid easy. Even if you don't know to do this, you have to figure this out, because there's other bosses that are just as hard. Yeah, sometimes he jumps on you and then you die, so... But yeah, I mean... Anytime I read a guide on this game, they talk about that, and it's like, it's not hard. This is not a hard fight. He's harder in the N64 Zelda. Here it's just one simple, incredibly easy strategy. I cast shield this time. I don't... Yeah, you can't damage him with that. But yeah, if you didn't do this, what else would you do? Because if you jumped at him, he'd be too fast, so it's impossible otherwise. So pretty much, it's kind of broken, but whatever. Because I think I've beaten him the other way, and it's just stupid. It's stupid either way. It's just a stupid final fight. But the overall game is good, and I recommend this game if you like retro exploration games. It's one of the better ones, and I still have my NES copy too, and it's a good game. I recommend. So thus Zelda wakes up and... You saved Hyrule, and you are a real hero and a real human being. And then they fuck behind the curtain. Although if you compare it to the first Zelda ending, it's probably a little better than that. But yeah, neither games have that great of endings, but very few NES games did back then. But yeah, it's a good game, and I recommend it. And it's not hard, despite what people say. It just requires practice. If you can practice it for a couple hours, you can probably beat it in a couple of days, maybe one day. I just beat this in a couple hours because you can run through the first 5 dungeons and pretty much fight nothing if you know what you're doing.